The United States of America is the most powerful country in the world. It is to present day what Rome was to the ancient world, what the Mongol Empire was to 13th century, and Britain in the 19th century. The US has the world's most powerful military. It has over 700 bases in 80 countries across the world. It has over 170,000 troops permanently deployed in 159 countries. The US economy at $30 trillion is nearly a quarter of the world economy. But now all of this seems to be changing under President Donald Trump. He has started a tariff war with two of the USA's biggest neighbors, Canada and Mexico. His administration is shutting down US aid, said to be a powerful tool of US foreign interference. In fact, Trump's Foreign Secretary Marco Rubio seems to be suggesting a reversal of the US foreign policy. He said, and I quote, "We are in a multipolar world with multi-great powers in different parts of the planet, and the post-war global order is not just obsolete, it's a weapon being used against us." Is this the end of the American empire of influence across the world? And what does it mean for India and the world? Today we look at the 5 areas in which the Trump effect could affect India. In manufacturing, in weapons sales, tariffs, globalization, and finally, immigration. Joining me to discuss this are Ambassador Anil Trigunyat, Dr. S.P. Sharma, and Major General Sanjay Meston. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Ambassador Trigunyat, make sense of these last couple of developments for us. Is the American empire finally ending? America used to be the global cop. It was policing the entire world, but Trump clearly seems to have something else on his mind.
Well, I think that the Trump's philosophy, in the sense, is driven by America first,
Right.
and it is not from now. It has been there for Roosevelt when they created a new rule-based order.
Yes.
And the United States is the one which you mentioned as the global policeman.
Yes.
By being so, it has also really decimated that very heritage that it had. So
Right.
its legitimacy has been going away. Its friendships with the countries has become suspect.
Yes.
And President Trump wants to really create that thing. Like when he says that the world will measure us
Yes.
on our successes,
Right.
not only by the battles we win, but by the wars we end, or by the wars we never enter into. Now, that's a very major, I would say, statement from him.
Yes.
Secondly, you were mentioning about the biggest economy, this and that, but let us also not forget that while the $30 trillion economy is there,
Yes.
their own debt is unsustainable of $31 trillion,
Yes.
with over $1 trillion in servicing debts. So immigration, inflation, and interest have become a very major problem on the plank on which he came to power. And that's precisely what he's trying to do. While he's becoming a peacemaker, he wants peace through strength. His strength comes internally.
Yes.
So that's what they are trying to focus. At the same time, even they understand very well that China is the major challenge that they are
Yes.
going to face. But they are following a policy of competition with cooperation with China.
Yes.
And China and USA, in my view, would like to deal in a G2 format.
Right.
The Chinese are also not looking to confront the United States in any which way. And there are discussions. And so what you mentioned about Marco Rubio,
Yes.
the acknowledgement that there
Yes.
are other powers who need to be respected,
Yes.
is acknowledgement of the reality of today's world.
Right.
Even though I personally feel that eventually the world is moving towards a Cold War 2.0 kind of a scenario.
Yes.
Because what Trump has done is, you see, I mean, he has walked out of the multilateral institutions that guarantee this multipolarity. So he has walked out of the Paris Agreement, which is climate change being one of the biggest threats to the world.
Yes.
He has walked out of the World Health Organization, whereas we have seen what pandemic has done to the world. He does not have respect for those institutions. He thinks that the United States could do that. So those are going to be his major challenges. At the same time, he is trying to reduce the conflicts and the wars, especially we have seen what he has done in Gaza. Secondly, he's trying to work on Russia-Ukraine war to stop it.
Right.
So that means there will be certain changes in the global dynamic by itself,
Right.
which will create, in my view, some kind of a thing. But then his term is only about 4 years, and
Yes.
we will see how this great power competition eventually plays out.
Right, absolutely. But there is another story to that as well, Ambassador Trigunya. A possibility of a third Trump term. I don't know how that is going to play out, but that has already started doing the rounds. But that's a separate story for another day. But I want to come to Dr. Sharma on this issue of manufacturing, Dr. Sharma. The fact that China plus one was the buzz a few years back. In fact, right until the time that Donald Trump took over, it meant to signify that foreign firms were looking for countries other than China to invest in for manufacturing. But now in today's Trump era, China plus one, the plus one seems to be the United States itself. So how does it look for us, for the Indian economy, when Trump is going to emphasize on manufacturing within the United States? And the message to American industry is very clear, as Ambassador Gunyat was saying, that it is America first, and the fact is nearshoring seems to be the preferred solution. Where does this leave countries like India, which have placed enormous bets on the China plus one philosophy?
Yes, because trade is always for the welfare,
Right.
and trade is always to create the efficiencies. So we can't create tussles with trade actually, and the normal course comes with the many logical solutions. So there must be a perfect give and take between the countries, as we have a great trade with USA, and US is our largest trade partner.
Right.
Uh, if I am going by the numbers, we export and import in the top 10 items, 50% items are same. We
Right.
export electrical machinery and equipment. We also import the electrical machinery and equipment.
Right.
We export nuclear, natural or cultured pearls, and we import also. We export nuclear reactors and we import also. We export mineral fuels and we import also. So there is a great give and take between US and China,
Right.
and US and India and US. And US is our largest trade partner. We the USA surpassed China in 2019 or 2018.
Right.
But the trade, if I am going by the numbers of the last 12 years, starting from the Obama era, our trade was growing at a 1.3% on an average during those 4 years.
Yes.
Thereafter, during the tenure of Trump, first Trump, the trade was growing at 6.3%.
Yes.
But in the tenure of Mr. Biden, the trade grew at 13%.
Right.
On an average during the last 4 years. So trade trajectory. So this is not showing that trade was highest in the Biden era, but the trade trajectory with US is expanding significantly from an average growth of 1.3% to 6.3%, now the
Right.
13%, because we have a great efficiencies between the trade trajectory between
Yeah.
exports and imports. A lot of complementaries are existing between US and India, and I don't see that if some knee-jerk reaction is taken by US and that will be in favor of US. I don't see that US will sustain this tussle for a longer period of
Yes,
time. They
absolutely.
have to
No,
clear
but
the
Dr. Sharma, this point about manufacturing being incentivized in the United States, where at least in countries like Mexico, he wants to get U.S. industries to start manufacturing in the United States as well. So where does that leave countries like India, where we have bet on the China plus one model, where we want, we want American companies like Apple to come here and start manufacturing in India. So if all of that starts moving back to the United States, where does that leave us? Our dreams of being the manufacturing outsourcing hub for US companies.
Yes, we are the most lucrative country for the manufacturing, as we have a mission of Make in India, and we are supporting the Make in India with a lot of ease of doing business. We have
Yes.
improved a lot in ease of doing business. And during the recent years, there are a lot of reforms at the ground level. Reforms are happening at the factory level. Our
Yes.
corporate tax is competitive as compared with many advanced economies, even with US.
Yes.
We have effective rate of 17% for the new manufacturers, and the existing ones 25% existing rate. So we are very competitive, and we have a great workforce, labor force
Yes.
advantage is also there. So I don't see that with such kind of tussles or such kind of offers, which are I think short-lived.
Yes.
US will be able to attract much of the manufacturing in US premises. India will remain attractive as India is the,
India will
because
remain
growth is
attractive
always
indeed.
fundamental. If the
Yes.
country is going in the higher trajectory, because money always finds the promising growth partner, and
Yes.
India is a great promising growth partner. We have a trajectory of more than 8% during the last 3 years.
Yes.
We grew at 9.7%, then 7%, then 8.2%, and still we are the fastest moving economy, not only
Yes.
for the current year or the next year, we will remain fastest in the next many years.
Absolutely. I'll come
So
back to you again
growth will
on that
attract
point. Yes.
many investors towards India,
Right.
but because US is the largest economy, they can say anything and can create trouble in the financial markets.
Absolutely. I'll come back to you on that point of growth, Dr. Sharma. But I want to go over to General Sanjay Meston about the arms sales. General Meston, when Prime Minister Modi spoke with President Trump last week, he was very clear and direct in saying that he wants India to buy more American arms, as he's always been saying for a long time now. The fact is that India has already committed to $4 billion worth of US military hardware under the Biden administration. And we hear that there is another $10 billion worth of deals that are going to go to France when the Prime Minister visits later this month for submarines and for fighter aircraft. Now, every $1 billion in arms imports takes that much money away from indigenous Atmanirbhar Bharat programs. What are the programs that you think that the Americans would want us to invest, to buy? What are the items of military hardware that the US under Trump would like us to buy? And how does this affect us when you start increasing your imports, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do with Atmanirbhar Bharat? General Meston.
Sandeep, good evening. The issues highlighted, firstly, how does it affect India? I think it is not going to affect India much. And I agree with the previous speaker that overall things seem to be quite favorable, inclined to India. And
Yes.
I think we have a lot of commonality of interest between United States and India. Now, as regards the import of the US weapons are concerned, I think to some extent, as rightly mentioned by you, we have gone in large number of imports. For example, the MQ-9B drones, etc. We are talking about the joint production, co-production of GE F414 engines, which was signed between us and Prime Minister Modi and President Biden during his administration. And I think that will move ahead. And of course, also the imports of GE F404 engines.
Right.
So these are some things. We have also gone for C-17 Hercules aircraft. We have gone in for Apache and Chinook Hepters.
Yes.
I think now, since you mentioned about France, it may happen that perhaps President Trump may also tell us to, start thinking about buying F-16s and F-35,
Right.
the latest kind of aircraft, which are fifth generation aircraft,
Yes.
especially F-35. So that may happen, and that perhaps India may have to go for it to some extent, because as rightfully stated by the Indian Air Force Chief,
Yes.
that as of date we are deficit almost by about 12.5 squadrons.
Yes.
So despite going in for Tejas Mark 1 and Mark 2,
Yes.
so we will make up deficiency. So that is a likely possibility. Another thing is, see, United States has got large number of Striker version of vehicles, which
Yes.
are the infantry carrying vehicles, which are wheeled, and these vehicles are available. And Indian Army has already decided to order 527 of the Striker version vehicles.
Yes.
So that is something which again we may be going to buy from United States. So overall, I feel the kind of military equipment the United States has, it may be good for Indian Indian defense, definitely.
Yes.
But since you raised the issue, whether it is going to affect Atmanirbhar, I
Yes.
think it will have an impact on Atmanirbhar. See, President Trump also realizes that it is an interdependent world. For example, now he
Yeah.
is talking about tariffs of 25% with Canada, but half of the auto parts come from Canada itself to United States for
Yes.
these vehicles. So he also realizes Indian assets in terms of a youthful profile, highly technical qualified youngsters, our
Right.
land, our highly skilled labor, large numbers of skilled labor available. So I feel President Trump
Yes.
may like to do a lot of joint venture partnership with India, the way we have done with Russia on BrahMos. So I
Yes.
see in this direction, perhaps we may have a very good hope of having everything jointly co-production between us and the United States. So something we will have to import. So Atmanirbhar also will simultaneously progress. It is not going to really impinge. And as on date, whatever trade wars are going on, I think India is the only country. Perhaps it is not going to affect us in a majorly way. Yes, I think even this budget, if I'm not wrong, we have reduced some kind of that the motorcycle. I think they hardly
Yes.
think about 35 or 25% we have declined it,
Tariffs
so
have
that
been reduced on motorcycles below
yes,
a certain engine
so some
capacity.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, give and take will happen. But overall, I think Indian interest would not be affected, and I think the bonhomie between our Prime Minister and
Yes.
President Trump is going to go in a very good long trajectory.
Right.
So
We'll have
things.
to see later this month, General Meston, about that bonhomie and how it's going to, stand in the way of the relationship, especially when you're talking about tariffs. And Ambassador Trigunya, there's a full-scale tariff war on between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And of course, the US has a trade deficit of $1 trillion with the rest of the world. Now, he started this tariff war with Canada and Mexico because they are among the top countries which have this thing with the US, of course. They're immediate neighbors. We are further down in the line. What are the kind of scenarios that India should brace for when it comes to he has called us tariff kings in the past. What is the kind of things that we should brace for when Prime Minister Modi visits the White House this month?
And the one thing I would like to tell you in my reading of President Trump, I think that he is very equanimous.
Right.
समदर्शी जिसको बोलते हैं हमारे हिंदी में.
Yes.
So he treats his friends, his enemies, and frenemies alike.
Right.
It doesn't matter whether you are his friend or you like or not. If he has to impose tariffs, he will do so.
Right.
If you remember last time, he had taken us out from the GSP benefits that
Yes.
directly impacted our MSMEs.
MSMEs. Yeah.
He also imposed tariffs which have not still gone away. He has threatened and called India the tariff king.
Yes.
So those are not statements just for the heck of it.
Right.
And you have to take him seriously and also on the face value. Because immediately after that, not only he announced in the speech, but he also very clearly started imposing tariffs on all the three countries that you mentioned, whether it's Mexico, Canada, or something.
Yes.
He is what he wants. For example, Greenland. The Denmark, today the NATO Secretary General said that Denmark should negotiate for the, accession of Greenland. His foreign secretary goes to Panama.
Yes.
And the Panamanian government agrees that they will not renew the contract with the Chinese for managing the Panama Canal.
Yes.
So he is there. Now, as far as India is concerned, he's been asking for opening and there was an indication, as was mentioned by General Meston also. Let us be very clear. I believe he's a transactional person.
Yes.
He will like to extract the maximum mileage. And in my view, he'll be the last person to allow joint ventures or the American companies moving to any part of the world. Rather, he would like to get them back into the United States.
Right.
And that is something that is going to be his way. Now, these tariffs, he's placing it perhaps unknowingly that it is going to also impact on his own people. They are suffering from inflation.
Yes.
They are suffering from other problems in the country, economic problems. So therefore, if you are going to impose tariffs, things become equally, expensive, unless you are willing to then collecting that funds which you get at the gate
Yes.
to utilize to subsidize your own economy. So that means you are looking to completely demolish the international trading order.
Yes, which brings me
And
to my next
indulge in complete
point,
protectionism.
Ambassador Trigunya, the fact that this Trump's move away from globalization, it means the end of an era that we've seen, nearly 4 decades of globalization that's literally defined the world since the end of the Cold War. is that finally coming to an end? And what are the consequences for India? Because we really need to keep growing at close to double digit if we are to become a developed nation by 2047. So Dr. Sharma, Trump moving away from this thing of globalization, moving more towards nearshoring and, if I can say, make America great again, and that's MAGA, and there's also MAMA, which could be make America manufacture again. What does that mean for India with these? How can we achieve these high growth numbers if America starts doing everything in the United States itself?
I don't see that there will be any impact of trade war or actions by Trump government because India is a resilient economy and India is supported by the domestic demand and we are least dependent on our export trajectory. Though we are diversifying our exports towards Middle East and Asian countries, we have
Yes.
a great growth also during the last 2-3 years. But still, we are a consumption-driven economy, domestic consumption-driven economy. That is our backbone and supported by the agriculture sector also. And also the exports with the US are at around 78, $79 billion in the merchandise segment, and we have many options to divert trade towards the other many economies as we have large diversified portfolio of our exports.
Right.
There may be some impact in the shorter period that export accelerate because of some if some imposition of high tariff is there, but I don't
Right.
see in the long term there will be any impact because we will be able to find the new markets like
We'll
the
be able
Africa
to
is
find
also a great
new
market
markets. It
for
obviously clearly means that
India.
you'll have to be looking at bilaterals as well with other countries as a fail-safe. But General Meston, there's also this issue of immigrants. That's one of the biggest issues between India and the United States right now. Of course, again, as with tariffs, we are not right up there. It's the South Americans that are going to bear the brunt of the immigrants. The largest immigrants, of course, come from Mexico and the South American countries. But we also have something like 700,000 illegal immigrants of Indian origin in the United States. And Trump has, of course, cracked down on immigrants. He's deployed the military against them. They are creating, as we speak, a facility on Guantanamo Bay to house something like 30,000 illegal immigrants. Of course, the most dangerous illegal immigrants, the criminals are going to be lodged there. But how do you see the impact of Trump's crackdown on immigrants affecting us? He's ended birthright citizenship for those in the US. How do you think this affects us? It makes the US a less lucrative place for Indian immigrants to aspire to, legally, of course.
Definitely it will have some impact. Firstly, see, Elon Musk has also clearly stated that this,
Yes.
especially as regards Indians are concerned, because of our good youthful profile and technical qualified people, they will have a lot of value and probably they will not be deported. It is only people who are considered truly illegal,
Yes.
or who may average, I would say average, and not doing anything for the Americans, for the productivity of the American people, and of course criminals. So those kind of thing, and our foreign minister rightly has stated that we are ready to take back such people. But overall, yes, to some extent, people will now start looking for other places like Australia,
Right.
maybe, and all these things. But overall, one thing I would like to highlight, see, President Trump, the way he's going,
Yes.
yes, you are very right about globalization, he is going away. But I think to some extent now he is moving towards isolationism.
Yes.
And this is exactly what happened, 7th December 1941, when the Pearl Harbor attack took
Yes.
place. After that, any wars which America has fought, it has been with number of allies. Now he says he will not take part in any war. But
Yes.
tomorrow, let's take a 9/11 kind of a scenario happens.
Yes.
Who will, especially the Europeans, the NATO allies, will they be part of him? So he has to factor all these things. And today, as on date,
Yes.
in the news it is coming that 51% Americans are opposing this trade wars. Only
Yes.
38% said yes. So he has to keep these aspects into
He has
mind.
to keep his domestic constituency in mind as well. But Ambassador Trigoniath, closing comments from you on the immigrant issue. How much of a sore point will it be between India and the United States? How do we ensure that our legal immigrants are not affected by the illegals who are already there in the United States?
See, I think that we have to remember that Trump is also a businessman.
Yes.
And although his MAGA followers or supporters are against the immigration, and especially the illegal immigration, which he feels comes from Mexico, for which he is already working on it, and you saw it's being stopped. As far as India is concerned, there are some unofficial statistics about 700,000 illegal immigrants are there, of which 18,000 have been identified and put in detention centers to be sent.
Right.
For whom our policy is very simple. If they are Indian citizens, then we are willing to take them back, but there should be a proof of it. And
Yes.
so that is there. Secondly, H1B visas, we are the largest beneficiaries of about 70% of them.
Yes.
I don't see that that is going to be a great impact on that. But this may not remain as, I would say, attractive, because then the families can't work. The children born there will not get the citizenship and all that. So those are going to be some considerations for the techies themselves with regard to availing of the H1B visas. So it will definitely remain a point of discussion throughout.
Right.
But if very large number of people he start sending, as they are claiming about 700,000 or so out of the
Yes.
15 million total illegal immigrants, then obviously we'll have a domestic issue as well.
Yes, a domestic issue as well. And Ambassador Trigunyal, as you said, that India needs to brace for a fresh round of unpredictability under President Trump, because if there is anything predictable about a Trump presidency, it is the unpredictability. Thank you very much, Ambassador Trigunyal, General Sanjay Meston, and of course, Dr. Sharma for joining us this evening.